The moon hung high above the earth, casting a soft glow over the quiet night. In a small town on the edge of civilization, something extraordinary was about to happen. A spaceship, sleek and glowing with an otherworldly light, descended from the heavens. The people below had no idea what awaited them. They had heard the rumors, the whispers of strange occurrences and sightings in the sky. But no one had ever imagined that this night would change their world forever. As the spaceship touched the ground, a hush fell over the crowd that had gathered. The door of the ship opened slowly, and a figure emerged. She was tall, with skin that shimmered like silver under the light of the stars. Her eyes glowed with a deep, haunting blue that seemed to look right through the gathered humans. The air around her seemed to hum with an energy that no one could explain. She was not like them. Her presence was something out of a storybook, a creature from the unknown. The woman stepped forward, her movements graceful but purposeful. She was the princess of a distant alien race, and her name was Lasara. Despite her beauty and elegance, there was an undeniable sadness in her gaze. Her race, the Endarians, had been cursed for centuries. The curse was cruel, and unforgiving. None of their women could bear children. The Endarians had no future, and Lysara, as their princess, was expected to carry on their bloodline, yet she could never do so. This fact haunted her every moment of her life. She had come to Earth on a mission, one that she hoped would change her fate. Lysara's people had heard of humans, of their resilience, their ability to adapt, and most importantly, their fertility. The Endarians were desperate. The queen, Lysara's mother, had sent her to Earth to find a solution. But Lysara had not expected to find what she did. The king of Earth, a wise and powerful ruler named King Alaric, had heard of Lysara's arrival. His kingdom was one of the few human civilizations that had survived the harsh conditions of their world. Unlike the rest of the planet, his people had thrived. He was a man of great intelligence, and when he heard of Lysara's plight, something within him stirred. He believed that if there was a way to help the Endarians, then the Earth could benefit. 2. He had spent years studying alien cultures and had learned much about their ways. However, he was skeptical. How could a race cursed with infertility ever find a way out? But there was something about Lysara that intrigued him. He saw strength in her eyes, a determination that mirrored his own. When she came to his court, he welcomed her with a mix of curiosity and caution. Why he wanted to understand her people, to help them if he could, but the idea of an alien race coming to Earth was not something to take lightly. Princess Lysara, King Alaric, spoke with a voice that carried both authority and empathy. I understand the burden that you carry. Your people's curse is cruel, but Earth has faced its own share of struggles. We are no strangers to adversity. I believe that together, we may find a solution. Lysara was surprised by his kindness. She had expected rejection or perhaps indifference, but the king seemed genuinely moved by her plight. She nodded, her silver hair shimmering in the dim light of the room. I've heard much about your people, King Alaric, she said softly. You have managed to survive, and perhaps you hold the answer we need. The king motioned for his advisors to bring forward a box carved from wood and inlaid with strange symbols. It was an ancient artifact, one that had been passed down through generations in his family. It was said to hold mysterious powers, a gift from the heavens themselves. Some believed it was capable of altering the course of history. Others whispered that it had the power to change fate. You have come seeking a cure for your people, King Alaric said, his voice steady. This artifact may hold the key to your salvation. Lysara's heart raced. She had heard the legends, but she had never dared to believe them. The idea that an artifact could change the fate of an entire race seemed impossible. And yet, there was a glimmer of hope in her heart. Could this truly be the answer? Was this the gift she had been waiting for all her life? The king handed her the artifact. As Lysara touched it, a strange energy coursed through her. She felt a surge of warmth, followed by an intense pressure in her chest. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she felt as if the weight of her entire existence had shifted. Something deep within her stirred, a feeling she had never known, a longing, a desire she had never felt before. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her mind. It was a voice that wasn't her own, yet it spoke to her with the certainty of a prophecy. This gift is not just for you, Lysara, it is for your people. You are the key to their survival, but you must first unlock the power within yourself. The princess staggered back, her heart pounding in her chest. What was happening to her?
Oh, what
had this artifact done? King Alaric watched her closely, sensing the change in the air. Princess, what is it? Are you all right? Lysara blinked, trying to shake off the strange sensation. I don't know. It feels as if something has awakened inside me. Her voice trembled with uncertainty. I think this gift is more than I ever imagined. And as the words left her lips, the truth became clear. The artifact had done something that no one could have predicted. It had given her something she had thought impossible: hope. But with that hope came a question. What kind of gift had the king truly given her, and would it be enough to save her people? The princess looked up at the king, her mind racing with the possibilities. The future of her species now lay in her hands. But one thing was certain: the journey ahead would not be easy. The king's gift had set something in motion, something that would change everything for both humans and Endarians alike. The question now was she ready to face it? This opening creates suspense and mystery while introducing key characters and the central conflict, setting the stage for the story's unfolding drama. The hook is strong, with the princess receiving an unexpected gift that may change everything for her and her people. The air in the palace was thick with tension. Lysara sat in her chambers, the ancient artifact resting in her hands. The strange warmth still lingered within her, a constant reminder of the night that had forever altered the course of her life. Her thoughts raced, caught between the wonder of the artifact's power and the fear of the unknown. What had it done to her? And why now, after centuries of infertility, had she suddenly felt the stirrings of something she had thought lost to? Her people forever? Her reflection in the mirror seemed foreign to her. There was something different about the way her skin glowed, the way her eyes sparkled. She had always been the picture of grace, the epitome of royalty. Yet now, there was something more. Something alive. It was as if the artifact had ignited a spark deep within her, something that made her feel whole, something that filled the emptiness that had plagued her existence. But she wasn't alone. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Princess Lysara, came the voice of Prince Kaelin, the son of King Alaric, the very same man who had given her the artifact. His voice carried the weight of both respect and curiosity. May I come in? Lysara's heart fluttered, but she quickly composed herself. Kaelin had been her guide since she arrived on Earth. He had shown her the ways of the human kingdom. And though their interactions had been brief, there was an unspoken connection between them. It was a connection she had not fully understood until now. Of course, Prince Kaelin, she called softly, her voice betraying a hint of unease. The door opened, and Kaelin stepped inside, his tall frame filling the doorway. He was handsome, with the same golden hair and piercing green eyes as his father. He had a way of moving that seemed to draw the eye, and his presence was calming, yet there was something enigmatic about him. He smiled at her, but his eyes were filled with concern. I heard of the strange sensation you felt after touching the artifact, Kaelin said, his voice low. Are you all right? Lysara hesitated before answering. She had already sensed the prince's unease around her, but now she realized it wasn't just out of politeness. He knew something she didn't. I'm not sure, she replied, her gaze dropping to the artifact in her hands. It's like something inside me, ... awakened. It's as if I can feel ... life within me. Something that was never supposed to be possible. Kaelin's expression shifted, the concern deepening into something darker in emotion she couldn't quite place. I stepped closer, his eyes narrowing slightly. Princess, there's something I need to tell you, he began, his voice barely above a whisper. Something I've been keeping from you. Lysara's heart skipped a beat. Was he going to tell her what the artifact truly was? Is there more to this mysterious gift than anyone had let on? Go on, she urged, her curiosity growing stronger with every word he spoke. Kaelin took a deep breath and looked around, as if making sure they were truly alone. He lowered his voice even more. I've known about the artifact's power for years. My father, King Alaric, he's kept it a secret, but I've seen its effects. I never expected it to be activated so soon. But I believe it's more than just a gift. He paused, his eyes flickering to the artifact, then back to her. Tied to something much older than us. A prophecy. Lysara blinked in surprise. A prophecy? She had never heard of such a thing. The Endarians had their own myths and legends, but Earth's prophecies were a mystery to her. She searched his face, trying to understand the weight of his words. What prophecy? She asked, her voice trembling with both fear and wonder. Kaelin hesitated, then took another step forward. The artifact was not meant for just anyone. It was meant for you, princess. The legend speaks of a princess who would come from the stars. Someone who would bring forth the future of two worlds, Earth and Endaria. But the price of this gift is much higher than anyone could have imagined. Lysara's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean, what price? Kellen's eyes darkened. The prophecy tells of an heir, one who would be born from the union of a human and an alien heir, with the power to change everything. But the king, he doesn't know. Everything. He doesn't know that your fertility or ability to bear a child is the key to the survival of both our people. The child you carry will be the one to either save us all or destroy us. Lysara's world seemed to shatter around her. She had felt something shift inside her, but never had she imagined it would be this. A child, the heir to both Earth and Endaria, the very thing her people had been denied for centuries, was now within her reach. But the cost was far greater than she had ever anticipated. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She whispered, her voice shaking with disbelief. Why have you kept this from me? Kaelin looked away, a deep sorrow in his eyes. Because I wasn't sure you were ready to hear the truth. I wanted to protect you from the burden it brings. But now, now it's too late. The artifact has awakened. Something in you, something beyond our control. Lysara stood frozen, the weight of his words pressing down on her like a heavy stone. What had she gotten herself into? The king's gift had given her hope, but now it seemed to hold the potential for destruction. What happens now? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Kaelin stepped back, his gaze conflicted. Now the king will find out. He will learn of the heir and he won't be pleased. Prophecy says that the king of Endaria will not allow the heir to be born, no matter the cost. He believes that this child, born of a union between humans and aliens, will be the end of his reign. Lysara felt a chill run down her spine. The king's fury would be nothing compared to what lay ahead. She had hoped to save her people, but now she realized she might be the one who would tear everything apart. And so the journey began. The fate of two worlds rested on her shoulders, and the prince's secret had made it all the more real. The heir was coming, but so was the storm. The morning sun had just begun to filter through the thick curtains of Lysara's chambers, casting soft beams of light that danced across the stone floors. Yet inside the princess, there was no peace. The strange sensations she had been feeling for the past few days had intensified, and each moment seemed to stretch into eternity. Every glance at the artifact brought with it a rush of overwhelming energy, and a strange fluttering in her chest reminded her that something deep within her was changing, something beyond her understanding. The princess had thought that the artifact, this mysterious gift from the human king, was merely a symbol of hope, perhaps a token of goodwill. But now she knew it was more than that. The prophecy Kaelin had revealed to her had made one thing clear. Her life and the future of both her people and the humans were intricately tied to this artifact. It was no longer just an object, it was a catalyst, and it had ignited something within her that she was not prepared for. She gazed at the artifact once more, resting delicately on the table in front of her. Its surface shimmered, almost alive, as though it recognized her inner turmoil. Lysara reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing against its cool surface. Immediately her body jerked in response, a surge of warmth flooding her veins. She gasped as a wave of vivid images flashed before her eyes, visions of alien landscapes. Stars being born, and shadows of unknown creatures that had never been seen by human or Endarian eyes. But amidst the chaos of the visions, one image stood out, a child, small and radiant, standing at the center of two worlds. She staggered back, her breath coming in quick gasps. Her heart raced as she tried to make sense of what she had just experienced. The child. It was her child. Heir. The one who would bring the future of both Earth and Endaria into being. The door to her chambers opened, and Kalen stepped inside, his expression grim but concerned. He had sensed her unease, and though he had hoped to give her space, he knew the time had come for them to speak once more. "Princess," he said softly, his voice almost gentle. "You've felt it, haven't you?" Lysara nodded, struggling to catch her breath. "Yes, I saw something. A child. My child." It was as if the artifact was showing me the future. But it doesn't make sense. How could we bring this child into existence when everything we know tells us it's impossible? Kalen stepped forward, his eyes filled with both empathy and urgency. The artifact. It's not just giving you visions, Lysara. It's unlocking your deepest potential, something you never knew existed within you. The curse of infertility that has plagued your people for centuries. It wasn't a biological flaw. It was a barrier, one created by forces far beyond our control. The artifact has the power to break that barrier. And in doing so, it is awakening something inside of you that has been dormant. Lysara took a step back, overwhelmed. But I am not ready for this. My people, they've never known the gift of life. And now, I'm supposed to bring this child into the world, one that could either save or destroy us all. Kellen's voice grew firm. Yes, you're not ready. But no one is ever truly ready for the weight of destiny. This child, it's more than just an heir. It's the hope for both of our worlds, Lysara. Andarians need this child to ensure their future, and Earth will be forever changed by the existence of such a union. Lysara clenched her fists, trying to steady herself. But what if I can't control it? What if the king finds out, and he tries to stop it? Prophecy said that the king would not allow the heir to exist. What if his wrath destroys everything? Kellen's gaze softened, but there was a cold edge to his words. Then we fight. We fight to protect the child. We fight to ensure that the future of both our people is not dictated by fear, but by the power of this gift. This child, your child. The future. And we cannot let anyone take that from us. Lysara's heart pounded in her chest, and a knot of fear twisted in her stomach. She could feel the weight of the artifact's power pulsing in her hands. A reminder that she was now bound to forces greater than herself. The king would never accept this child, never accept what it represented, a merging of two worlds. A bond that could unite or tear them apart. She turned to Kalen, her eyes meeting his. And you, will you help me? You stand by my side, even if it means going against your own father? Kellen's expression was resolute. I will, for you, for the child, for both of our worlds. We cannot afford to let fear dictate our future. In that moment, Lysara realized something she hadn't fully understood before. She wasn't just a princess anymore. She wasn't just the last hope for the Andarians. She was a force, a living catalyst, carrying within her the future of two civilizations. The child she would bear would be the key to everything, the key to healing or to destruction. There was no turning back now. The room seemed to pulse with energy, as Lysara finally understood the gravity of her situation. She was no longer just a visitor on Earth. She was part of its future. And as much as she feared the unknown, as much as the responsibility terrified her, there was something else burning within her hope. The princess wasn't ready. But perhaps in time, she would become the one the universe had been waiting for. This part introduces the true power of the artifact, deepens the mystery, and sets the stage for the princess's transformation. The suspense grows as the princess grapples with the gift and her new role in the fate of two worlds, leading to a higher stake, the battle to protect the heir. The air had turned heavy, laden with a growing sense of inevitability. In the grand hall of King Alaric's palace, a storm was brewing. It wasn't the storm of a tempest, but the storm of a fury so intense that even the ancient walls seemed to tremble in anticipation. Lysara, now carrying the burden of her newfound knowledge, stood in the center of it all, her heart racing with dread. She had hoped, prayed that the king would understand, that he would see the hope in her unborn child and understand the weight of its existence, not just for Earth, but for the Andarians as well. But deep down, she had known that such hope was fragile. The prophecy Kaelin had revealed to her had made it clear the king of Andaria would never accept this child. Not because of its potential to unite, but because of what it symbolized: weakness, an end to the old ways, and the death of his reign. The doors to the throne room burst open with a force that echoed throughout the hall. King Alaric, his face, a mask of fury and disbelief, strode in. His usual calm demeanor was nowhere to be seen. His eyes, once filled with wisdom and compassion, were now dark and cold, filled with the fire of betrayal. Behind him, several of his advisors and guards followed, their faces equally grim. But it was the king's presence that commanded the room. "Princess Lysara," King Alaric's voice rang out, sharp and authoritative. "What have you done?" Lysara's heart sank as she turned to face him. His anger was palpable, swirling around them like an invisible force. She could feel the weight of his gaze, the accusation in every word he spoke. She had hoped this moment wouldn't come. But it had, and now she had to face the consequences. Lysara began, but her voice faltered as the king's presence overwhelmed her. The power he wielded was not just political. It was personal. His fury radiated from him, making the very air feel thick and suffocating. "You carry a child born of a union between my people and them," King Alaric thundered, his voice growing louder with each passing second. "Do you understand what this means? This is no mere child, Lysara. This is an abomination. Have defied everything we stand for." Lysara felt the sting of his words, but she stood her ground. "I did not ask for this, King Alaric. This child, this heir, was given to me by the artifact. It is our future, both for my people and for Earth." The king's face twisted with rage. "Our future? You speak of unity, of hope, but do you not see the truth? This child is a threat to everything we have built. A being born of two worlds will destroy the delicate balance that has kept us safe for generations." Kaelin stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. "Father, you are wrong. This child is not a threat. It is the key to our survival. The prophecy spoke of this union for a reason. We cannot afford to reject it." The king's eyes burned with fury as he turned to his son. "You too, Kaelin, you would side with her? Would side with the destruction of your own people for the sake of an alien child? Have you lost your mind?" Kaelin did not flinch. "I have not lost my mind, father. But you are blinded by fear. This child is the future. You cannot destroy it, no matter how hard you try." Lysara felt the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. She could sense the rift growing between father and son, the weight of the king's authority pressing down on Kaelin, yet Kaelin refused to bow to it. His love for her, his belief in the future of their two worlds, was unshakable. King Alaric's gaze shifted back to Lysara, his eyes filled with a cold, unforgiving wrath. "You think you can bring peace between our worlds with this child? No? You have only made things worse. Your very existence here, your claim to this child, has set the wheels of destruction in motion. You have brought war to Earth and Andaria, Lysara." The words cut deep. Lysara's heart tightened in her chest, but she held her ground. "I never wanted this war. I never wanted any of this. I only want to protect my people, my legacy. But I see now that I cannot do this alone." A brief silence followed, the weight of the king's words hanging in the air. Lysara's mind raced, but she could not back down now. She had come too far, and her people, her child, depended on her strength. "Then you will have to face the consequences of your actions, Lysara," the king said, his voice cold and final. "This child will not be born. I will ensure that your plans, your future will be erased before they ever take root." The king's words hit her like a physical blow, and the days following the king's fury were filled with a tension that could not be shaken. The walls of the palace seemed to close in on Lysara, the weight of the conflict pressing down on her every move. There was no hiding from the storm that had engulfed her heart, her future. And the fate of both Earth and Andaria were now tied to the child growing within her. But the greater battle was not just between the human king and her people, it was within herself. Each morning, she awoke to the reality that the king's fury was no passing storm. His threats were no idle words. The very air around her seemed to crackle with the electricity of a brewing war. Lizara had known this moment would come, but never had she imagined it would feel so lonely. The palace that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a prison, its cold, stone walls echoing with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Yet, despite the growing darkness, there was one person she could still count on: Kalan. He had become her ally in ways that went beyond their shared cause. He had seen her as more than just an alien princess, more than just a political figure. To him, she was Lysara, the woman who carried the weight of two worlds on her shoulders. Lysara sat by the window, her gaze lost in the horizon beyond the palace grounds. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city below. She had tried to find solace in the beauty of Earth, in its strange, fleeting moments, but everything felt fragile now. Her mind kept returning to the same question. What happens if the king is right? A soft knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Kalan entered, his face soft with concern, yet there was a glint of determination in his eyes. He stepped closer, the usual warmth in his presence, a small comfort in the midst of everything. You've been quiet today, Kalan observed gently. Are you okay, Lysara? Gave a small, weary smile. How can I be okay when everything is falling apart? The king will never accept this child, the prophecy. It was meant to save us, but it seems to be tearing everything we know apart. Kellen's expression hardened. The king has always believed that power is everything. It can be controlled. But we both know it isn't. This child, this heir, is more than just a political tool. It's the bridge to a future where both our worlds can coexist. I know it, and I will fight for it no matter what. Lysara turned to face him, her eyes filled with both gratitude and sorrow. But you, Kalan, you're caught in the middle. Your father is your king, and your duty to him is deep. I can't ask you to turn against him. Kalan stepped forward, his eyes fierce and unwavering. You don't need to ask me. I've made my choice. The future of our people is in this child's hands, and I won't let my father's fear destroy that. If he wants to fight, then we'll fight. But I won't let him take away our hope. Lysara felt a surge of emotion, both the weight of their situation and the warmth of Kellen's loyalty. She reached out, her hand brushing against his. For the briefest moment, the weight of the world seemed to lift as they shared a silent understanding. In that moment, Lysara realized something that had eluded her for so long. She wasn't alone. Kellen's unwavering support was the anchor she needed to face what was coming. But even as she drew strength from him, there was a growing awareness in the back of her mind. Her bond with Kalan was not just political, it was personal, emotional, and as the lines between duty and desire blurred, Sara found herself wondering whether they could survive the storm that was coming. The weight of their relationship was becoming clearer. It was no longer just about the child, the future, or the war that loomed on the horizon. It was about them, about the choices they would have to make together. But the hardest part, Lysara realized, was the tension between what they both wanted and what was expected of them. The political marriage of Earth and Indaria had always been a distant dream, a future that no one could foresee. But now, with the child she carried, that dream was both a blessing and a curse. The door opened, and the sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. It was one of the palace advisors, a stern-looking man named Tarek. His eyes flicked nervously between Lysara and Kalan as he spoke. Your Highness, he said, bowing respectfully to Kalan. King requests your presence in the throne room. He... wishes to speak with you, Lysara. Lysara's heart dropped. She had been expecting this, but it didn't make it any easier. King's fury had not abated. If anything, it had only grown sharper with each passing day. She knew what this meant. This would not be a simple discussion. This was a warning. Tell him I'll be there, she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Kellen's expression darkened, but he didn't say anything. He simply nodded, his gaze locking with hers in a silent promise. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. As the advisor left, Kaelin lingered for a moment longer, his hand brushing hers. "Remember," he said softly, "we fight for this future, no matter what." Lysara took a deep breath and nodded. The weight of the moment settled over her, but her resolve was stronger than before. The world may have been divided, but she would not let it break her. Not now, not when the child within her held the power to change everything. With one final glance at Kalan, Lysara turned toward the door. She wasn't just walking into the throne room to face the king, she was walking into the heart of a battle that would define the future of both worlds. And she was ready to fight, not just for the child, but for herself. The door closed behind her, and the sound of her footsteps echoed in the hallway as she made her way toward the storm that awaited her. The palace had never felt so cold. Lysara stood on the balcony, staring out at the horizon where the dark clouds gathered. There was no longer any illusion about the peace she had hoped for. The storm was coming, and it was far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Her people were restless, the Endarian council divided, and Earth was teetering on the brink of conflict. The king had made his intentions clear. He would not allow the child to be born. Anyone who stood in his way would be crushed under the weight of his wrath. But Lysara knew one thing for sure. She could no longer remain silent. She was no longer just a princess of Endaria or a visitor on Earth. She was a mother. And her child was the key to the survival of both worlds. That knowledge ignited something inside her, a fire that could not be extinguished, no matter the cost. Behind her, Kaelin approached, his footsteps light but resolute. His presence brought her a small measure of comfort, but the tension between them was palpable. They had crossed a line from which there was no return, and neither of them knew what would come next. "Have you heard the news?" Kaelin asked quietly, his voice a mix of sorrow and determination. Lysara nodded, her gaze still fixed on the swirling storm clouds. "The war has begun, hasn't it? The king's forces are gathering. He's sending his best soldiers to neutralize anyone who stands against him. He won't stop until the child is eradicated." Kellen's jaw tightened. "And so the war between Earth and Endaria begins. But it's not just a war of armies, Lysara. It's a war of bloodlines. The king wants to ensure that the throne remains in the hands of his bloodline. He believes that a hybrid heir, born of both humans and Endarians, will be the end of his dynasty." Lysara turned toward him, her eyes filled with both sadness and resolve. "But the child is not a threat, Kaelin. It's a bridge, a chance for both our people to build something new. Can't he see that?" Kellen's eyes darkened, and he stepped closer, taking her hand in his. "Because the king's power is built on fear, not trust. And fear has a way of making even the most powerful kings blind to what is right. He sees the child as an abomination because it challenges everything he's built." Lysara's breath caught in her throat. "Then we have to stop him. We have to make him see that the future doesn't belong to a single bloodline. It belongs to both of us, to all of us." Kellen's expression softened, but there was no mistaking the weight of the moment. "We will stop him, Lysara, together. But the path ahead is not easy. The king won't back down, and neither will his supporters. There are factions within both our people who believe in the purity of their bloodlines. They'll fight us every step of the way." The realization hit her hard. This wasn't just about the king. It wasn't just about her and Kaelin. It was about the very fabric of both civilizations, Endaria and Earth ripping apart. The child she carried was more than just an heir. It was a symbol of everything both sides had fought for and against. To some, it was a savior. To others, it was a harbinger of destruction. "We can't fight alone," Lysara whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of the truth. "We need the people on our side. We need Earth's support, and we need the Endarians to believe in what we're fighting for. This war isn't just about power, it's about hope, it's about the future." Kaelin nodded, but his face was drawn. "I know," but convincing both sides to lay down their weapons will be the greatest battle of all. As the words hung in the air, the distant sound of trumpets echoed across the palace grounds. Signal. The king's forces were on the move. The time for diplomacy had passed. War was upon them. Lysara closed her eyes, steadying her breath. Storm wasn't just in the sky, it was inside her. She had known that this moment would come, that she would have to make a choice. But now, the reality of that choice was here, and there was no turning back. "Kaelin," she said, her voice quiet but filled with the weight of determination. "We need to gather allies. I'm not just fighting for my people. I'm fighting for Earth too. We need to show them that a war based on fear will destroy us all. We need to give them something to believe in." Kaelin squeezed her hand, a sense of resolve in his eyes. "I will speak to my father's allies. We'll try to find those who can still see reason. But we may need to fight on two fronts. One against the king, and the other against the fear that has taken root in the hearts of our people." Lysara nodded. "Then we'll fight. We'll unite the people, and we'll show them that the future can be something better than what the king imagines." As the trumpets grew louder, signaling the arrival of the king's forces, Lysara felt the weight of what was about to happen. The battle for the child had just begun. But this was no ordinary battle. It was a war for the future, where bloodlines did not divide, but unite. The war of the bloodlines had begun, and Lysara was ready to fight not just for her child, but for the hope of a better world. The palace was silent, save for the distant echoes of marching boots and the faint rustling of banners in the wind. The war had escalated beyond anything Lysara had ever imagined. It wasn't just a clash of armies now. It was a battle for the very soul of their civilizations. And as the final showdown loomed, Lysara stood at the center of it, all caught between love, duty, and the destiny of two worlds. Outside the palace walls, the sounds of conflict grew louder. The Andarian soldiers, loyal to the king, had made their way to Earth, determined to stamp out what they saw as an abomination, her child, the heir of both Earth and Andaria. And in the distance, the human army stood ready, with Kaelin by her side, pledging to protect her and the unborn child at any cost. But Lysara knew better than to believe this battle would be won with swords and blood alone. The king's forces were not just fighting for territory. They were fighting to preserve the old ways, to keep control over a world that had been shaped by fear. And fear, she had learned, was the greatest enemy of all. In the quiet of her chambers, Lysara turned toward Kaelin, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she was about to make. The path ahead was clear, but the cost was higher than she could ever have imagined. "Kaelin," she began, her voice trembling, "I need to ask you something. I need you to promise me something." Kalan, his eyes filled with concern, stepped closer. "To her, anything, Lysara." "What is it?" Lysara swallowed, fighting the lump in her throat. "If this goes wrong, if the war takes everything from you, promise me you'll protect the child, no matter what. I don't want my son or daughter to inherit this hatred. I want them to have a future that is free of the burdens we've carried." Kellen's hand reached for hers, his touch warm and firm. "You're not alone in this. We'll fight, Lysara. We'll fight for the future you've always dreamed of, for the child." Lysara closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The future she had imagined, a future where both their people could live in peace, slipping further from her grasp with every passing hour. She had tried everything, diplomacy, alliances, even appeals to the heart, but none of it had worked. The king had made it clear. He would never accept this child, never accept the union of two worlds. His power depended on fear, and fear would not allow him to see reason. "I know," she whispered, "but the only way to end this is for me to make the ultimate sacrifice." Kellen's grip tightened on her hand. "No, Lysara. No, you don't have to do this. There's another way. We can still fight." Lysara looked at him, her eyes filled with both sorrow and determination. "The king will never stop. He won't stop until this child is erased from history. But if I can show him that I'm willing to give up everything for peace, for the future, maybe he'll see that we are not the enemy. Maybe then he'll stop this madness." Kaelin shook his head, his voice cracking with emotion. "You can't do this. You're asking me to let you die. You're asking me to lose everything. Lysara placed a gentle hand on his cheek, her touch soft yet resolute. I'm asking you to save the future. Can't fight this war forever, Kaelin. Yeah, neither can I. If I can end this, if I can make him see the truth, then I will have fulfilled my purpose, my duty. Tears welled in Kellen's eyes, but he didn't look away. I don't want to lose you. I can't. Lysara smiled through her tears, a bittersweet expression that spoke volumes. You won't lose me? Not in the way you think?
Oh.
Our child. We'll carry the future we dreamed of. No matter what happens, that future will be worth it. The door to her chamber opened, and a figure stepped in, one of the palace advisors, his face pale and drawn. His voice when he spoke was heavy with the weight of what he had to say. The king's forces are at the gates. They're prepared to break through the defenses and march on the city. They will be here within the hour. Lysara nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The moment had arrived. She turned back to Kaelin, her heart aching with the pain of what she was about to do. It's time, she said softly. I'll make the sacrifice. I'll go to him. Kellen's face twisted with anguish. No. Lysara, please don't. But Lysara raised her hand, silencing him. It's the only way. We can't win this war with bloodshed. We can only win it by showing the king that we are not enemies, that we never were. With one last look at Kaelin, Lysara turned and walked toward the door, her step steady and sure. The sacrifice she was about to make would change everything. She knew this was the only way to end the war, to ensure that her child would have a future free from the hate that had poisoned both their worlds. She was willing to give up her life for it, but she would not give up hope. Outside the palace, the air was thick with the sounds of battle. The war of bloodlines was reaching its climax, and Lysara, the princess who had come to Earth in search of a future, was now the one to shape it. She stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. She was not just a princess anymore. She was a mother, and her sacrifice would be the final blow to a war that had begun long before her birth. In the end, it was not the battle that would determine the fate of the future. It was the willingness to let go of everything to give the next generation a chance at something better. And Lysara was ready to give that gift.